Good afternoon, everyone. Since each philosophy is considered as a major philosophy, so it has its own criticisms, or it is criticized also, or it has its own weaknesses. That way we can say. So when we talk about weaknesses, so it is criticized on the basis of what philosophy talks. First criticism is related to its, let's say, purpose of life, which it says it is happiness. Okay. But happiness is something, subjective, and happiness people will take more in terms of materialistic happiness rather than intellectual happiness. No. How we feel happy. So more about materialistic aspect, physical aspect, let's say. So it is criticized, and happiness is also linked to hedonist. Right. So there is also one approach called hedonist, and that hedonist is related to something: eat, drink, and make merry. No. So khao, piyo, and enjoy karo. Basically, this is how it is. The meaning of life. So happiness is more linked to individual. This, it is more linked to individual. And individual, let's say that if you feel happy, so it is good. But you know that our conduct is also assessed, evaluated on the basis of what you contribute to society in terms of contributions. So that is how it has been also criticized, that whether happiness is a sort of, let's say, hardly there is the difference between pleasure seeking behavior and happiness. No. Pleasure seeking is more about indulgence, more about bodily, let's say that happiness that we seek. So it is how it has been linked, it is criticized. So his philosophy is also criticized or linked with hedonist aspect, and that is how one such criticism given. Then his doctrine of mean. That has also been criticized. Doctrine of mean, how can we say ki this is a middle, let's say that level action or intermediate level action? Can we say that extreme in all situations or extreme of human action is always bad? May not necessarily. No. Extreme human action. Extreme human action can also be good. No. In 3 hours writing answers. Isn't it? In 2 hours solving prelims paper. It is extreme. Is it? Or let's say cricketers, let's say in six ball, let's say hitting runs maximum, isn't it? So what is maximum? So is it extreme action? Can we say extreme action is unethical? And many a time not acting is also intelligent decision, isn't it? Not acting is also intelligent decision. Let's say not taking decision, not acting. So that is how let's see his philosophy. Let's say when we take any decision on the basis of doctrine of mean, which we consider as it is rational, but it can have its own flaws also. And what is mean for one person may be extreme for another. No, what you consider mean, let's say middle, it can be extreme for another depending on the nature of society. Right. Largely in elite class, if you talk a bit loud, they will say don't shout, isn't it? They talk very softly. They talk very softly. And if you let's say that go to society, open society, right. So the normal talk is of loud, let's say that it is loud. So that their normal talk is also act of shouting. So that we consider. So this is how it is very difficult to objectively decide what is doctrine of mean or what is a rational action in a given situation. Means it does have subjectivity, that we can say this. So it is criticized for its happiness as main aim of life, which can be compared also with pleasure-seeking behavior, for which utilitarians were criticized. It is more end-driven, not means-driven, because this is how it is. Aim of life is happiness. It is end-driven. Any action that is fulfilling your happiness can be considered as ethical, which may also be, let's say, not appropriate. These are some criticisms that we can talk to them. So let's write on this. Greek philosophy, especially Aristotle, is criticized for following weaknesses. Following weaknesses. Right. First, main aim of life as happiness. Main aim of life as happiness, which has been linked with pleasure-seeking behavior. Pleasure-seeking behavior of hedonists, which has been linked with pleasure-seeking. What is sound? Which has been, I will try to speak loud, but there is doctrine of mean. Which has been linked with hedonists, or physical pleasure rather than intellectual pleasure. Physical pleasure rather than pleasure derived from knowledge. Pleasure derived from knowledge. Next, doctrine of mean is criticized for its subjectivity. Doctrine of mean is criticized for subjectivity. That What is moderate action? That first, what is moderate action? Within that first, what is moderate action? May differ person to person. Differ person to person. Next, within that next, extreme human action may not necessarily be. Extreme human action may not necessarily be unethical in all situations. In all situations. Situations. Next. Inaction in some situations can also be considered an intelligent decision. An intelligent decision. Intelligent decision. Next, separate. Next point, third point, separate. It is a teleological philosophy. It is a teleological philosophy. Teleological philosophy, which gives emphasis on goals and ends, and not means of human action. It gives emphasis on goals and ends and not means of human action. Means of human action. Okay. So these are some weaknesses. Let's write relevance. Relevance. Even if it has weaknesses, but still Greek philosophy is considered. Even if it has weaknesses, still Greek philosophy is considered. Foundation for modern ethics. Foundation for modern ethics. Its emphasis on human nature. Its emphasis on human nature. Human nature. Explained by Aristotle. Aristotle that human is social, political. Human is social, political and ethical animal. Human is social, political and ethical animal. Yes. Political means aspiration for democratic values and rights. Aspirations for democratic values and rights. Like social means aspiration for formation of groups, associations, society, like ethical means an inclination towards improving character and conduct through rational and critical thinking. rational and critical thinking. Their emphasis on building character. Their emphasis on building character and 4 principles of ethics. Their emphasis on building character and 4 principles of ethics. 4 principles of ethics as justice, courage, temperance and wisdom. Justice, courage, temperance and wisdom. Have applications at individual, societal and governance level. Have applications at individual, societal and individual level. That building character has become, building good character has become very challenging in today's materialistic world. This is how it is. See, any philosophy has its strengths and weaknesses. Certainly, any philosophy will have its strengths and positives more than weaknesses. But no philosophy can be considered perfect, since it deals with human behavior, human character and conduct. No, except natural sciences, all sciences have weaknesses. Right. Isn't it? This you have to understand. If you belong to natural sciences, no experience of humanities, you learn from those who have humanities optionals. This. So they will have some weaknesses. Then you can think that if it has weakness, so then what its strength is, why we should know it. Still we have to know the positive side. So positive side, because human behavior is very complex. Right. Human behavior is very complex. Still we are learning. We still cannot explain human behavior. Isn't it? One day I may have given an example that your landlord, isn't it? Your landlord can ask one day to vacate that house. You feel surprised, no? Why he is asking. You are ready to increase by 10% rent? No, but he still says that, khali kar do. This, so, and he will give you excuse. Ki ghar bik gaya hai. I have sold it. Sold ho gaya to fir khali karna hai, isn't it? Yes. After some time you know that no, he has given someone on rent. No, so you will not go and argue him. Kyun diya? Uska ghar hai. This. But now the rent may be, let's say that 10,000. He has given 15,000. Right. You wanted to increase 10%. 10,000 or 10% what? Right. He wants to increase by 5,000, not 1,000. You may think he is a very greedy person. Isn't it? Next day you find in Old Rajan Nagar, Bhandara, he is doing. He has given that Bhandara. And he is also standing there. Let's say distributing foods, etc. to people. You will wonder, is the बहुत religious? Isn't it? This. So can you make out any sense? You are confused. No. Whether he is a rational person, greedy person. But however, let's say that it shows inconsistency in behavior. And if you have inconsistency in behavior, it shows lack of rationality in human behavior. Because a rational human means less inconsistency. That is how the difference you can see that. That is how rationality has relevance. Because rationality brings consistency. That's why in our society, since people are not rational or they lack rationality, you wonder one day they may behave in different way and next day they are totally different. So we take third party advice, isn't it? Especially in marriage functions. Marriage रिश्ता में आप करते हो, isn't it? So third party से जानना चाहते हैं कैसे हैं वो लोग. This and third party also does not help much because marriage के बाद बिल्कुल दोनों अलग ही है, ऐसा भी होता है. That's why there is we have a lot of uncertainty. This is how people are worried. Anyhow, what we are just trying to say is that talking about human behavior, predicting human behavior, so you may have come to know और जो बहुत ज़्यादा आइडियल बात करता है वो प्रैक्टिकली में होता नहीं है. और जो होता है वो बात नहीं करता है. So this is what we can tell. If someone comes and says, I like you, I this and that, you are great, this blah blah things, right? तो समझ जाओ कि वो जल्द ही आपका एंटी बनने वाला है. Anyhow, so human behavior is complex to explain. They have also what they have done. Philosophy is nothing but thinking about human behavior. You cannot enter inside the mind, but they try to enter inside the mind and they try to explain. That's why there can be subjectivity, but does not mean that subjectivity is to an extent that it would result into ambiguity. That you cannot say. The subjectivity is there, but it is not to an extent that you can say, no, philosophies are ambiguous. They are vague. That would be excuse. So we have to understand their strengths, we have to understand their weaknesses, we have to understand their relevance. Relevance, they will tell, is rationality. Greek philosophy is known for rationality. Rationality is basis for, let's say, our society, so many things. Be it knowledge, be it society, be it scientific temper, be it what blah blah, whatever we can say. And that is how they are relevant. Plus, they want to talk on character. You know how character is very challenging because building good character has no meaning in our society. Your character, or you are judged as a good or bad person on the basis of success. Success is done on the basis of wealth, job, settled life, this plus other things. How good you are is determined on the basis of all these things, but not on the basis of your personality characteristics. And this is how the society, status in society, isn't it? The status in society, all these things. That's why character has become very scarcest resource, you can say that, on this earth. You can find people with good knowledge, but finding people with knowledge and character is very challenging. This knowledge plus character, it is very challenging. Yes, it is different, but let's take that somehow when you say happiness, the happiness is also linked with pleasure seeking type behavior at surface level. Because many a time people may derive happy, they can feel happy. Like say you can feel happy when you eat something tasty, when you eat something that you like, isn't it? Day-to-day basis, don't go on intellectual level. Day-to-day basis, in morning in family, if you don't get your breakfast as you like, what happens? तो टैंट्रम में भाग भी जाते होगे, बोलोगे नहीं मुझे नहीं करना ब्रेकफास्ट, ऐसा सबने किया है. Isn't it? And you feel happy अगर आपको मतलब फटाफट कुछ अच्छा मिल जाए, that's, and in evening good snacks, you know that, you feel happy. So because let's say your mood becomes fresh, you get let's say that tea that you like, coffee that you like, do you feel happy? This. So many a time happiness is linked with food also, isn't it? Environment also. आप किसी के घर जाते हो, आप वहाँ पे it is so neat and clean and so arranged, you feel happy, isn't it? किसी के घर जाते हो, it is so, let's say that. So environment also makes us happy. Right. At times environment is so dull. We say that no, people have ability to, let's say, judge all these things. आज का environment काफी dull सा है. Right. So what is that? That way it is criticized. Otherwise it is not hedonist. In fact, utilitarian is also not hedonist. Bentham defended. We will talk because their philosophy has been taken something at, let's say, swine mentality. This is how they say that. You think that we are talking about pleasure-seeking behavior, but they were not talking. They also defended their utilitarian. But we take something at face value also. This, and on that basis we try to criticize, and that way we can take it. Right? So now we'll take next called deontology, means Kantian philosophy. Yes, Plato gave, but it's refined, means refinement is done by Aristotle. Refinement in the sense that more articulative. He is giving a rational means also, doctrine of means. He is talking 5 senses, how we grow it, and the 6th sense, growth of 6th sense is considered as wisdom. He explains it, means he goes further advancing that thought. That's why we link with Plato also, but we talk also with Aristotle. Yes, right? Each major philosophy will have its own golden rule. It was doctrine of mean by Aristotle. He will follow selflessness. This. And which we can say also ethical premise, you can say in philosophical language. The two principles he talked, so we say also principles of ethics, that your action should be universal or your action should be end in itself. This. And they should guide our conduct. This. If our conduct conforms to such standards, then we can consider it ethical. They are also a sort of established standards. This. Why he talks all these things? Before we talk him, let's talk what exactly he is trying to say. He is not first person to talk about selfless human action. Human, let's say that when we say that human acts on the basis of self-interest. And when human acts on the basis of selfless. Generally, I draw, this is my version of drawing human, first time for your class. And I say I cannot draw better than that. This. So you can take it as a human, grown-up human, or let's say child also, depending how we say it. Right. So when we take decision, that is called self-interest. Self-interest. So basically, it means that this person's self-interest is also linked in that decision. This. So whenever our interest is also associated in that decision, that is called self-interest, then it is said that the person cannot be objective. Person cannot be objective. How? So let's you ask me that it is public administration optional. So you ask me that should I leave public ad optional? Isn't it? I am not the right person. Right. Although some people have asked and I have told you can leave. To be selfless, but it is very difficult. Anyhow, what we are trying to say is that wherever self is associated, our interest is associated in any decision. So it is presumed that it will not be objective because your self-interest will also conflict with that decision. That is called conflict of interest. Your self-interest will also conflict with that decision. And since it will conflict with that decision, hence it will not be objective. Isn't it? Let's take that those who have started preparation and those who are already, let's say, middle and after of preparation, and ask them, should optional be removed? जिसने अभी शुरुआत किया है वो बोलेगा हाँ. Right? Isn't it? They will be more decisive. And those who are just, let's say, कि किसी के ऑप्शनल में मान लो लास्ट ईयर मैंने दिया था अच्छे मार्क्स आ रहे, so he will say no. Right? So self-interest. That's why mother, let's say that, and child. Mother it's a very difficult choice for mother to become selfless. Because mother has a very close bond with child. And mother seems to be always biased towards her child. This is should know that. So, because of close bond, although she can be rational also, it's not that we are not saying. So, this is the logic. Now, when we say selfless, selfless. Basically, it means that you are not in that decision, but you are taking that decision. Selfless, this is how objective meaning if you say. When we selfless, selfless. You are not part of that decision. Means your interest is not associated with that decision. This, since your interest is not associated with that decision, the many times what we say, critics can give you right view. Why you want to take critics' view? Because they are more objective. Right? They may be more biased, let's say biased also, but they can be very critical. So when our interest is not associated, when self is out, then you can take, it is presumed that you can take rational decision or objective decision. That's why Kant says selfless. Means if you want to make your decision rational, in all decisions that you take, you should not be part of that. Means your interest should not be associated with that. And then you can take right, rational decision. तो बहुत बड़ी बात है, isn't it? That's why it is the loftiest philosophy, among all. This, because we always try to have self-interest, our interest also associated in any decision. And since our interest is associated with any decision, we will not be as rational as we take self-less decision. That is how the main aspect. This, how it will be considered better, we will explain it. So that's what he says, that the main basis for our conduct should be this selflessness. Then he has not given any principle. Philosophers don't give principles. You should also know that. This, although we try to give lots of principles. No. Right. UPSC also asks lots of principles. No. What are the 3 universal values of civil services? That is how once they ask. This. So philosophers will generally do not give. Rather they try to explain the process of human behavior, how you can take rational decision. So how we can know that my decision is rational? He has given 2 principles to test your decision, test your conduct. And those 2 principles are: act in such a fashion that your action is universal, and act in such a fashion that your action is end in itself, rather than it becomes means to achieve some ends. This. But both principles will tell one thing: act in such a fashion that action is objective. This. How we'll know? So he will talk some other things also will talk. This is how we can say this. Then we'll try to write his application. That's why since he talks that you should not be part of that action, it should be universal, or it is action should itself be, let's say that means and ends. Hence he is more descriptive in his analysis. Means let's that it is called deontology. Right. So now basic aspect of deontology is this. Human action should itself be right. He says irrespective of the consequence. Irrespective of the consequence. Even consequence is failure, still you should act in right fashion. Why will say? But we mold it, manipulate the things, isn't it? As we told you that in interview we speak also, a bit of manipulation you do so that they cannot understand the interviewers. That's why they have their own way to test you, isn't it? So this way you can consider. In mains answer writing also we are manipulating, as we have told. Or everywhere we are not absolutely true. We try to bring this or that type of manipulation so that the decision goes in our favor. This. So, but he will be against that. And how you will do it, how we can be able to know this kind of, let's say, that is selfless action. So this is how he is a rationalist, and this person will talk about your human conscience. Right. He said that there should be moral development in human to a level that the human has achieved a moral autonomy. Right. Moral development happens, you achieve a moral autonomy. It is the highest level of development. Do you have moral autonomy? No. You are trying to move towards that. Quite close now, isn't it? Right. Still, let's say we have habit in our society, to ask to parents. Right. Largely parents take decision. Isn't it? कौन सा optional लेना है तो parents ही decide करेंगे. Is it like that? You have decided. Moral autonomy. Right. Many of the things we form opinions in our society. How we form opinion? Do we have our own sense to judge anything and form opinion? Or we just form opinion on the basis of hearsay or some this or that reports or what people say? Largely we have wrong perception. Our perceptions are still not well tested. They are based on this or that kind of belief, tradition, custom, not on the basis of rational thinking. Can we say? If you have lots of this prejudices in our society, the prejudices are based on what? Which factors? Subjective aspects, social norms, traditions, and we follow those aspects. So, this is what he will say that there should be a moral development in a human, and that moral development should be on the way. How it happens, he will not teach that. Because he is not a school teacher basically, sorry to say that. He will say how moral development. He is a philosopher who talks related to Kantian's aspect. But let's say there is a philosopher who has talked also how moral development happens, which will tell you one day when we'll teach attitude topic. So Lawrence Kohlberg, he has given at least 3 stages of moral development. This is pre-conventional, conventional and post-conventional. So moral development simply means whatever you learn about right and wrong, but a stage comes that you can take stands yourself. You can take decision yourself. You can judge on the basis of your own level of knowledge. And that is called moral autonomy. And once you will achieve that level of moral autonomy, then you will be able to see the things from selfless perspective. Moral development. And it is this moral development or moral autonomy that will bring another concept he gave, that is called categorical imperative. Categorical imperative, that is called absolute command. तो कभी आपकी कॉन्शियस ने ऐसा कमांड दिया है आपको? Yes. कब दिया था वो command? Right. It gives. Yes. If does so, then it means कि we are saying right, isn't it? So basically, see, ये आवाज मतलब conscience है. Right. So basically, it is a moral command. आपको कई बार वो आपको धक्का देता है, push करता है, isn't it? You know, don't act in this way. Does it say you are wrong or it is not right? This you can get such kind of commands, let's say that. Or many a time you have a courage of conviction. No, what I am doing is right, or whatever the consequence, I will remain like this. You get that kind of commands, let's say. The conscience, let's say that when it is issuing that commands, which we say as absolute command. Absolute command not to compromise some core values. No, be it whatever the cost, you say that. So, do you set that kind of things? Absolute command. I will not compromise. Right. Let me share college time. So, me and my friend used to sit on the same table and write our examination. And we were basically, fortunately, unfortunately, top 2 persons also. Right? So there was often competition. Competition कि कौन फर्स्ट आएगा. बस और लोगों को ऐसा लगा कि आपस में शेयर कर सकते हैं. Isn't it? तो दोनों फर्स्ट आ जाएंगे. Anyhow, but both of us did not talk even a single word in 3 hours. This he was also very moral person, rigid. Anyhow, just what we are saying is it is a sort of absolute command. That is how he is trying to say. That comes from inside. Whether it comes from this, it comes from this, it is very difficult to locate. Right? But conscience, it is a moral constitution. When you use the term conscience, the conscience is a moral constitution in every person. Every person has his or her moral constitution. This, and it is that moral constitution which is manifestation of moral development in you. The moral sense in you. It is represented by this conscience. And when it is developed, let's say that, he will say that it can give you this absolute command to act selflessly. Since it is absolute command, that's why it is called categorical. Categorical is easily related to, let's say, absolute. And command is, let's say that, this is order, let's say that. So, he has used the term also called categorical imperative, which comes from your conscience to act in a selfless manner. Means, after all, what is the basis to act in a selfless manner? That lies in your conscience, the conscience that you have. It means that those people who can have their conscience grown up, they will be more moving towards selfless action. And those people whose conscience is not that much developed, they will be more towards self-interested individual. Is it like that? Simplistic? Don't take that. That way we should not understand either or type. So I guess you are getting some ideas what he is going to tell, what he is supposed to talk. So basically philosophy if you take, human nature if you take, they have analyzed human nature. Human nature, ki how human exactly acts. So one says that ki human nature is positive and human acts for self-interest on the basis of their observation of human behavior. And that self-interest will be led by utilitarian philosophy or teleological philosophy. Kant, who belongs to deontology, so he says that human acts in a selfless manner. This, why human acts in a selfless manner, that has also he has given. The philosophy, the principle. So human nature can be positive and human can act in self-interest also and selfless also. And on the basis of that, they will go further explain their philosophy. That selflessness you can judge on the basis whether your action is universal, and second is that whether your action is end in itself rather than it is a means to achieve certain ends. That is what we can explain. While explaining, we'll further elaborate it. And then we'll tell you also the relevance of his philosophy. Yes. Yes. Right question. Saying that it is end in itself, that does not mean it is end oriented. Try to understand. Your means and ends become equal. This way. You should not action. Now, when we take any action, that action is what? Right. Largely any action, let's say that we have, there can be means and there can be ends. Like suppose you are reading, it is a means, your preparation is a means, and goal is to qualify this. So it becomes means and it becomes end. This. There is a means and ends relationship. This. Now, what he says is that suppose it is 1, it is 2. So 1 is equal to, means your means and ends should be the same. So it is different from ends. Ends means goal oriented. But he is not saying you should be goal oriented. Rather, your action should not create any means and ends relation. Right. Which will explain you in second principle when we take the second principle. Why you create means and ends relation. So then entire philosophy is based on that. Yes, Nishkam Karma, selflessness. Towards end we'll relate it and talk when we'll take application part there. Right. Basically what happens? Simple, let's say that parents are bringing you so that you can help them. Or if not help them, at least you respect them. Means and ends relation. Religion you follow because it can bring liberation. Isn't it? The means and ends relation. But he says ki no, you should not create this means and ends relation. Why do you wait for that? Otherwise I will end up telling the second principle without, let's say, properly telling the theory. You'll understand properly when we'll come to means and ends wala. There. And he is not talking ends oriented, otherwise he will become teleological. When we say end in itself, it is different from end orientation. That is how we should take it, right? Yes. Yes, moral relativism is different thing. Moral absolute command, selflessness, universal action. You may go through a journey where you are not rational. There you can have moral relativism. But that is not the, let's say that his aim to explain human behavior. Moral autonomy is a stage where you have reached to a universal type of action. Yes. Conclude the same? No. First thing is that they don't say that all individuals can have same behavior. It's not that they will raise. But moral autonomy is the stage where most of the individuals can have their own sense of judgment. Now let's say their sense of judgment may not be the same. Different individuals can have different sense of judgment. and that necessarily may not match from each other, because a person can have a different sense of judgment. Right. This, so that he is not talking that all will have the same level of sense of judgment. Then all people wisdom will be same. Right. It is not in that way. Right. Let's explain it. When we'll take further, it will become more, let's say, directly clear of universal and means and ends relationship, what it says. So let's write on this. Right. Deontology. Deontology is led by Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant, who is known as a German rationalist, and also a very lofty philosopher, who set among the highest standards of human conduct, set among the highest standards of human conduct based on his concept of categorical imperative. Based on his concept of categorical imperative. Categorical imperative. His ethical premise or golden rule is selflessness. Golden rule is selflessness of human action, or golden rule is selflessness, that is, humans should act selflessly on the basis of moral command, given by human conscience, moral command given by human conscience. He gave two ethical principles. One, act in such a fashion that human action is universal. Human action is universal. He did not give, within that will explain, he did not give a set of universal human actions, rather he left it to individuals to decide on the basis of their own rationality, whether their action is universal. He gives an analogy that he gives an analogy that if one acts in a given situation, and all other humans would also act, in the same fashion, in the same situation, then the action would be considered universal. In the same fashion, in the same situation, then the action would be considered universal. Universal. Is it like that? So wrong action with universal हो सकता है. This is what, isn't it? Wrong action can also be. Anyhow, but this is how way to know what is universal action. So universal action can have connotations, that we told about moral standards and ethical standards. Ethical standards are of higher standard. Moral standards are relative. Somehow when he says universal standards, your action can be universal if it is acceptable to all. Acceptable to all means it should cross all those socio-cultural differences so that it is acceptable to all. If you take social norms, the social norms in Indian society is different. Social norms in Arabian society is different. Social norm in, let's say that Western society is different. So what are those social norms which can be universal? Then they have to rise above relativism. No. They have to rise above relativism. It can be respect. Respect to elders can be one universal, because all society may like respect to elders. But there can be many other types of things which may not be considered as universal social norms. That's why fooding behavior you cannot make universal, because fooding behavior differ society to society. Anyhow, what he is saying that you visualize yourself whenever you act, you visualize yourself that whether your action is universal, means whether all people in that given situation will act in the same fashion. If they are going to act, then that action can be universal, and universal is giving absoluteness basically. The universal action is giving an indication of absoluteness. So that's why some common values you will find. There are some common standards. Let's say when that question was asked, that discuss 3 civil service values which can be universal, or 3 universal civil service values. Now, what can be the universal civil service values? Lots of things. Right. One is efficiency. Now, everywhere you need efficiency. And second is accountability. And third is integrity. Now, any, let's say that administration, you will have accountability. This is how power comes with accountability and responsibility. Anyhow, but what are those values which can be only Indian oriented? No. Tolerance. What are those values which are related to civil services and they are India specific? Honesty. India specific. Dharma. Duty. But duty means what? Dutifulness. it will be, let's say that if you take in that way, so Mahabharata context to some extent it is right, but any other hierarchy is universal, Max Weberian principle. Frugal solutions, right? But any value which is related to civil service, yes. Mhm. Yes, impartiality, the Western concept. Correct. Already Greek वालों ने बोला है correct. Saintly like personality. Right. Right. It is niskam. Can be considered since it is linked to our philosophy, so we can say that. But it is more of, let's say, respect to our own social ethos, which are different. The social ethos of society, which is diverse, composite culture, social norms you can consider. So, but there is no, it is very difficult to find out any India specific value in civil services. Right? Because all those values are largely, let's say, Western. Right? Because bureaucracy is organized, structured in that way. But still we can link if you talk civil services conduct rules. In civil services conduct rules mentioned, now let's say it was amended in 2014 and they have mentioned social ethos, social justice, that you can say serving to vulnerable sections, that can be considered. To some extent service motive can also be included because service motive differs state to state. Basically in Western society, it is less service motive. It is more influenced by the capitalist pattern, this business type. Like say in US, civil services will have less, let's say that difference from private services. This, so service motive can also be to some extent considered. Or let's say that civil servants, we can say that the civil servants, they are known as servant, let's say they may not be considered servant in all society. Like in France, civil servants are not considered civil servants. They are more considered as state official. This state official. They serve to state as a state official. Anyhow, it is difficult to demarcate, but yes, Nishkam Karma, truthfulness, people are writing here, but what we can say is, act in such a fashion that your action is universal. For civil servant, it is easy to identify. Universal actions are impartial action, integrity, accountability, efficiency. Similarly, for citizens, let's say humans, when they are acting, so you can think whatever the behavior you have, so whether it is based on, let's say, that universal action. So what can be universal action in social relation? So whether social relation should be on the basis of caste and religion. If it is on the basis of caste and religion, it is not universal. It is as per our social norm. But if your relation is based on just two humans, you treat, let's say that people as humans, not as this caste and that caste. So, in other countries also it will be considered you should treat people as humans. So when you treat people as humans in any society, it can be considered universal action. This, or it can be more universally acceptable. Because there are prejudices in all society on the basis of caste, etc. Simply let's say that universal action poses a challenge, and that challenge is to raise the standard of your behavior. Raise the standard of your behavior. This you can consider. And that is how, let's say, we have told some universal principles. The universal principles of ethics. His universal action will also conform to those universal principles of ethics in terms of what we have told. It can be compassion, it can be responsibility, it can be truthfulness, it can be, let's say, empathy, forgiveness, and other things. Right? That is how we can talk on this universal aspect. Let's write on this further. In universal itself, we'll write universal action, universal action. Poses challenge to people. Universal action poses challenge to people for raising standards of behavior. Raising standards of behavior. Behavior. Rising above. Rising above. Moral relativism. Moral relativism. Relativism. And following ethical absolutism. Ethical absolutism. Absolutism. Yes. So, in this technique or principle, there is no much technicality. Technicality, you think yourself, whether your action is universal. No, in any given situation, if you do anything. So, if you are, let's say that one example can be given, suppose if someone is copying in examination to just pass that exam, isn't it? And he was not able to study. The example which had been given in the theory while describing. So, suppose there is, let's say, very intelligent student, and because of some family problem, this and that, he was not able to study, focus and study. But he has been very intelligent. And whatever the classes so far he studied, he has qualified, come first also. That way you can take. But when, let's say, in one examination, he did not get time to study. And when examination comes, so he decides to copy in that examination. Copying can be done without notice of anyone. Even no one will notice also. Let's say, this is how the situation. He can do copy, no one would notice it also. Now, should he do this? Should he do that? No. Why? Yes. Yes. So, so it may not allow. Basically, then you can think whether all other people will act in that situation in that fashion. Not necessarily. When all may not act, so his action may not be considered universal. This you can say. But why he should not do that copying, etc., will tell you next principle. What will be the consequence? Right. This, it can be a moral guilt feeling, but it is much more than that also. So let's write second principle. Humans should act in such a fashion that the action is end in itself. The action is end in itself, rather than it creates means to achieve some ends. Some ends. that is a selfless action, a selfless action, selfless action will be end in itself. Selfless action will be end in itself, or it would not create means and ends relations. It would not create means and ends relations. Relations. According to him, if means and ends relations are created, according to him, if means and ends relations are created, then the ends will influence means. The ends will influence means. And in that situation, means will be compromised. Means will be compromised to achieve right ends. To achieve the right ends. Is it like that? So tons of cigarettes, gutkas and drink also nowadays in all Rajan Nagar. Isn't it? क्या है? रिजल्ट आना चाहिए. Isn't it? रिजल्ट आना चाहिए. कैसे आता है? This it does not matter. बाद में मैं सेहत ठीक कर लूंगा. Training. No, there are some students like that. So they take cigarette also, gutka also, and tea also. 3 ways to kill oneself. Right. Although he's still alive. Right. Why? Right. Means and ends. Right. This. Although already you know that what we do. What he is saying is that the day you create means and ends relation, the ends will now start influencing means. And since ends will start influencing means, then self is again coming. Right? And when self is coming, so he says if self comes, you cannot take selfless decisions. This, and largely, let's say it is true. We'll find that in our society, what we have been doing, self-interest, serving our self-interest. To serve our self-interest, many a time we compromise means. This, and we try to achieve some ends. Right? Merit is compromised. You know that? Many places, merits are compromised. People are bribing so that they can get job. All problems in society, you can explain by his philosophy. This, people are giving bribe. Why they are giving bribe? To get a good job. Isn't it? For the sake of good job, bribe is acceptable practice. Isn't it? People are giving dowry for what? Get a good groom, employed. Isn't it? Or sarkari naukri wali. This is how it is. Sorry to say. सरकारी नौकरी वाला है, अगर आप इंफोसिस में जॉब करते हो कोई पूछने वाला नहीं. राइट. डाउरी नहीं मिलेगा. एंड आप गवर्नमेंट जॉब में आप हो गया इस किसी में, मान लो पुलिस भी बन गए तो राइट. बस व्हाई पेरेंट्स आर गिविंग दैट डाउरी? Right. To get a good groom, let's say that, end. This. So that way we'll find that. So society, you can explain many things. This is all fine. That when we are eating, something that we eat which should be tasty one, isn't it? And for the taste one, let's say why you are eating? For taste, good taste. So for good taste, you want to eat also even which are not healthy. But and those things which are, let's say that good for health, right? You should eat for the sake of eating. This is what we'll say. Eating action itself should be right. Rather than you should eat for taste, but we eat for taste. Taste is the end. And for that sake, you know what we do. All these varieties of things in market. This, so that way we can consider. Basically, he will explain that way, and his critic will take utilitarian philosophy. There again, you'll understand what he was saying. That is the flaw of his philosophy. Right. Flaw is that he presumes, like Aristotle. Aristotle says that any extreme of action is not right. Only doctrine of mean. He is also saying the day you create means and ends, does it mean that he presumes that always means and ends means wrong action? Right. But it may not be true. But flaw we will not talk as of now. Right. What he is saying again, let's say that the day you create means and ends relationship, so it results into, let's say, compromise of means. This means will be compromised for the sake of right end. That is how teleological philosophy. And most of the things in our society, an organization wants to earn profit. Profit is, and how they want to earn profit? Manipulation. Manipulation of means. Means are manipulated. This you can say. So business profit, earning profit, getting contract. Contract, it is very important. Contract मिलना चाहिए, जो करना है करो. This is how they may tell to their agents, isn't it? Contract मिलना है, अब contract के नाम पे bribe भी दे दो, isn't it? Defense deal तो ऐसे ही होता है. Intermediaries in defense deal. The brokers, isn't it? The intermediaries, let's say that they influence. So basically, let's say that you getting contract, earning profit, and सारा scam तो इसी पे हुआ है. No, सत्यम scam. They manipulated their data to show that company was earning profit more than what actually it was earning. This, and they manipulate data to show profit because showing profit more than what it is actually earning brings investment, gives good rating. The good rating brings investment. That will find this. So that is how it is said. So it is not only linked to individuals, let's say, individuals are also doing the same thing. Individuals are also manipulating. The day government introduce performance-based incentive, the performance will be manipulated. Performance will be manipulated so that you get incentive. This. So that is what he is basically trying to explain. The day it becomes means and ends, for the sake of ends, means would be manipulated. When means will be manipulated, what he is saying, that it should be equal. Equal means not this. It should be end in itself, it is a phrase to tell. But it should be more of this. Your action, the means that you are acting, it should be itself right. This is how he is trying to explain. Right. And that way, let's say that it will be selfless. How it will be possible? Selflessness. If you are selfless, or it is selflessness is guiding you, then your action itself will be right. This that way we can consider. So let's write on this further. In both principles, in both principles, selflessness works as guide. Selflessness works as guide for human action, or first rationality, second human conscience, next categorical imperative, in bracket moral command, change in paragraph, become basis for analyzing and evaluating one's action, analyzing and evaluating one's action, that whether first it is universal, and second, whether action is end in itself. Action is end in itself. Second paragraph. It means Kant is against the popular saying that one can lie for saving others' life. One can lie for saving others' life. There is also a popular example. How we write it? No. I'm not able to write it. Jewish family, how we write? Jew. Right. Yes. Family. Persecuted. What you will do? Tell lie. Because in Nazi time, you know that they have given that example because it is Western philosophy. When it is a Western philosophy written quite back, so that is how such examples are given. You know that if family is handed over to the police, so what police will do? This, their life will suffer. So this, will you lie? You lie to save their life. But Kant is against it. Because means ends created. Right. Means and ends created. Means and ends created. Here it is lie. It is saving life. But that way it is different. But first you are lying. Basically, obvious thing is that you are lying. Lie is to save life. No. So Kantian philosophy will say it is not right. But it is not truth. You are lying. No. Not you are not trying to save yourself. Rather, you are speaking truth. Truth is the positive object. Whether your intention is what, that's different thing. Right? See, universal law is one thing, try to understand, and exception is another thing. So, exception cannot be a law, right? Exception cannot be a law. What you are saying is it is exception. What you are saying is it is exception. Generally, we will not lie. Generally, we will not lie. This generally we will not. Let me change the example. So, suppose let's say there is a doctor. We have a case study on that. A doctor comes to your house to get shelter, and let's say that he is your friend. Here, he is also your friend. Right? And let's say police. Police, it is Indian situation. Police is behind doctor. Right? Because police wants to arrest him. Arrest him. Because there is allegation that he has somehow linked with Naxalites. What do you do? तो वो कान तो अभी है नहीं पूछ नहीं सकते कि क्या करें what you will do in this situation? Yes, save the doctor. Yes, how you know information is true? देखो पुलिस इतना आपसे आर्गुमेंट नहीं करेगी Right. Yes. That's not the point. Whether you will give shelter to him or not. No. Why? क्यों? पुलिस से डर लग रहा है. ठीक है, तो फिर यहाँ पे क्या है? They are persecuted. Yes. Here the environment shows, let's say Nazi Germany, so it is persecuting, and once they will have the family, so they will put in concentration camp. That is how we have in our mind. This. Therefore, in that case, we think that lying will save life. But here it is Indian situation. It is a government, a democratic system we have, a judicial system we have. There is a system in place. When there is a system in place, so if a doctor, let's say, even if he is a friend, so he comes for, let's say, any kind of shelter, you want to, let's say, let him face law. Because you may have this, let's say, thinking that he can get justice by law. That is how they think. Here what you are trying to do is that you are acting, right, in a different fashion. You are not lying. So, lie is not, let's say, a natural act. This. We lie in some situations which is exception. And that exception cannot be a law. That's why Kant will not support it. Right. Now let's say what Kant says. He has bigger logics. Plus the book which explains what it gives the logic. Where Kant is, let's say, that given. Suppose, let's say that they hide in your house, and somehow, let's say that when police comes, so they try to escape. Because police will search the house. ऐसा थोड़ा कि पुलिस पूछा है, आपने बोला कोई है नहीं है तो चले जाएंगे. If they start searching, the searching result into either they will try to escape this, or they would be caught. When they will be caught, there is again, let's say, consequence. Or when they are escaping, in escape also, let's say, they may be caught, or while escaping there can be any such accident or any such problem. This. So, lie can have a more serious consequence this than speaking truth, and it is also not going to serve the purpose, because let the state decide. This the consequence, let's say. So let the state decide. Means, let's say that why we have come to this stage. Why we have come to this stage, where there is a regime which is, that absolutist. You have come to this stage because in past you have not also acted as per right means of action. That is what he will also tell. So you cannot have one-off analysis of the conduct. He is concerned about the broader aspect of the society. How we want to establish society. The today's society is nothing but a society which has also, let's say, piling up of past misdeeds that you face. Because in past people did not adhere to action itself. They did not adhere to action itself. What that is, let me finish. Let's finish that. What he is saying, suppose we have, let's say, over 6 billion people in the world. But let's take that at least 4 billion people may be in position to take decision. Right. And all these 4 billion people are compromising a bit in their decision. This, because they want to serve their interest. Everyone wants to serve interest. Everyone is compromising a bit. So when everyone is compromising a bit means everyone is not taking the best decision. Rather to serve self-interest, they are compromising a bit. And then you combine all cumulative. Then what will be the effect? And in that situation, society is worse than what society will be as per you act universally and act in such a fashion your action is end in itself. If we do not put success more important than human action, then people will not compromise human action. But human has started putting success more than human action. The success तो सबका important है. So everyone wants success. Everyone is compromising. तो वो कहाँ जाएगा सारा? Cumulative. It means कि all humans are not acting as per what they want to act in actual practice. If they don't have to, let's say, they bring ends in that. You can understand simple by this industrial revolution and impact on environment. Green revolution and impact on environment, land, fertility of land. You know it. Now, green revolution gave you short-term food security, but its consequences are long-term. Now you calculate the pros and cons. Whether society could have been better without green revolution. Because consequence will continue for years and gain was for short duration. This is what he is saying. He is talking something bigger. He is visualizing a society where people can live as per universal action, means and ends action. Hence, in that situation, nothing will become more important than your quality of action. This. Even life will also not be as important as quality of action. And when all people will behave in that way, the society will be a better place. Can we say? Then he is a huge critic to utilitarian. जैसे मान लो, let's take, आपने पूरा life, जो भी आपने किया, whatever you do, in let's say you have done in your life, towards end of life, let's ask to your grandparents, those who are aged sectors, are you satisfied with your life? Right. Depending what they will say. But suppose they are not satisfied. They say, no, I could have done something else. Or they have a moral guilt feeling. So the consequence of the moral guilt feeling, the cost, will be much more than whatever entire life they have done. That is what he is basically saying. Means and ends action. Right. He is not just concerned about an individual conduct. Means and end. It's entire societal also. In that context, if you analyze him, so he will be considered appropriate, and even, let's say, what Gita talks. Gita also talks the same thing. Nishkam karma. Mahatma Gandhi also talks about means of action. What he says, freedom can wait, but not causes of origin. This. So, you know what he says? So that is what his, let's say, philosophy basically. Its relevance you can consider. And these things should be on the basis of rational thinking. Right. What we have done is we have made our life things more important than anything else. And since we have come to this stage where we have made our life more important than anything else. That's why let's say human actions are now considered acceptable. Right. It has become, in class we are talking Kant. Outside he is not relevant. This. Because outside the practical life you know it better. What the life is. Where it is all about utilitarian life. But that will not make society better. This you should also know. Right. Individuals today have become highly wealthy, career focused, and let's say successful. But society has become worse. This is space of individual has increased. Let's say again I will draw this individual. So this individual wants individual space like this. No, individual का space बहुत बड़ा होना चाहिए. Because you want individual freedom. इसीलिए लोगों ने अपने घर के सामने 4 गाड़ियां खड़ा करके रखा है. ठीक है. This. और किसी दिन उसने एक कार हटाया, आपने गलती से भी पार्क कर दिया. ठीक है. फिर तो वो एक मतलब थोड़ा देर भी पार्क नहीं करने देगा. और उसका लैंड भी नहीं है, वो एमसीडी का है. This. So individual space has increased. Social space has shrunk. This. That is how society is. And in that situation, acting as per means and end is justified. That is called which serve self-interest. Isn't it? आप आए हो सिविल सर्विस का प्रिपरेशन करने, और अगर मान लो थोड़ा एक्टिविस्ट टाइप का काम करने लगो, घर वाले क्या बोलेंगे? या तो घर आ जाओ या जिसके लिए गए हो उस पे फोकस करो. No, there are other people to think about society. No, even if we observe a wrong thing, but we do not speak. Isn't it? Even if you observe wrong things, but what? Abhi nahi, abhi preparation. Once I will become IAS, then I will speak. Once you become IAS, then even you become more blind. Because so many things are happening inside the organization, you do not speak because you start realizing the reality of organization. तो अपने काम से मतलब रखो. Isn't it? This. So when exactly you will speak your mind? When that time will come? Perhaps that time may not come. No. So we are not speaking our mind because of this and that consequence. Can we say? Because if we speak our mind, there can be a negative consequence. This is his again broader aspect. It is in that light he says, Nazi wala story, if people had been acting as per universal action and let's say action in itself right, so Nazi regime may not have come. Hence that situation may not have, let's say, arisen. And again you are not doing anything. What you will do is that you save that family only. Right? Regime may again come like that, which can be exploitative. Right? This is what Immanuel Kant. That is how he is a German rationalist and idealist. दोनों चीज बोलते हैं. He is a rationalist also and he is idealist also. Right. That is what you have to talk. So let's write. Are you able to understand what he is saying? Is it achievable or he is really ideal? Ideal. As long as we are not in any trouble, We are largely utilitarian. The day you are in trouble, you want can't. Right. You want can't. This is how you should remember. That is how he is not ideal. How you will know this? मान लो कोई भी केस हो जाता है आपके साथ, अनफॉर्चुनेटली किसी के साथ, मान लो कुछ अनफॉर्चुनेट इंसिडेंट हो गया, देयर इज ए पुलिस इन्वेस्टिगेशन, यू वांट पुलिस टू डू इट इज इम्पार्शियल. हाउ इट विल डू इम्पार्शियल? उसका भी तो अपना अल्टेरियर मोटिव है. नाउ यू गो टू डॉक्टर, आप चाहते हो कि डॉक्टर का बिल्कुल फोकस हमारे ऊपर होना चाहिए. नो, don't anyone doctor, don't feel hurt. So let's say that you want to go to doctor. Doctor you want, he should not have any ulterior motive. और उन्होंने लिख दिया इतना सारा, बहुत सारा टेस्ट. Whether tests are needed or it is utilitarian? No. And you come to us coaching institutions. You want that, there should be complete justice. Right. Basically, when we expect something, right, there you want that Kantian type of behavior from others. But we want to live utilitarian type life. This, and it is not possible. इसलिए एक पर्सन जस्टिस के लिए चिल्लाता रह जाता है, जस्टिस नहीं मिलता है उसको, इसलिए कि सोसाइटी क्या है, यूटिलिटेरियन है. बस इतनी बड़ी सोसाइटी है, इतनी बड़ी पुलिस फोर्स है, इतना बड़ा जुडिशरी है, बट एक पर्सन, यू नो दैट पर्सन कीप्स क्राइंग फॉर जस्टिस and he does not get it. This is the hollowness of society. Right. That is how there can be several such cases in which one case is called Unnao case. Right. Unnao case in Uttar Pradesh. One girl related to MLA. Right. It is a sexual assault case. She kept crying for justice. Last, she wrote a letter to Chief Justice of India, and finally, in the film style, she died out of accident. Right. This person is dead, case is dead. This then Kant comes into picture. Right. That's why it is up to society to decide whether you follow Kant, you do not want to follow Kant. Right. This we can consider. That is how we can write application. So let's write on this. Yes, work in niskam manner. That is how it is. So let's say application. Application. First individual. First individual. At individual level, his philosophy is applicable. His philosophy is applicable as it teaches about. His philosophy is applicable as it teaches about moral development. Moral development and moral autonomy. Moral development and moral autonomy. That is development of human conscience. Development of human conscience, which will promote which will promote rational behavior. Rational behavior. Hence, his philosophy will improve human personality. Human personality. Human will become more selfless. Human will become more selfless rather than self-interested. Self-interested. Next, at society level. At society level, society will be better when people act on the basis of first universal action and second action as end in itself. Action as end in itself. Society has its own collective conscience. Society has its own collective conscience, which influences behavior of people. Like Western society is utilitarian. Hence, it discourages selfless conduct. Indian society is influenced by Indian philosophy. Indian society is influenced by Indian philosophy. Indian philosophy like Nishkam karma by Gita. Nishkam karma by Gita. Mahatma Gandhi also gave emphasis on right means for right ends. Hence, Indian society has one inherent quality. That is promotion of selfless conduct. Self-sacrifice. One inherent quality. That is promotion of selfless conduct, self-sacrifice and service motive. So basically, by the time when we'll write utilitarian also, we will know all these things. So we want to avoid too much details. But that is how you know that if you know Kant better, if you improve your moral autonomy, generally in our society, rational thinking, critical thinking, these things are not encouraged, which will tell you in utilitarian how it is. So since these things are not encouraged, it becomes difficult, that to act in a rational way. Society also collectively what it wants. It has its own collective conscience. The more rational society is, the better chance that it will improve your, let's say that conduct. It becomes, let's say, motivation. It gives justification. It gives legitimacy, support also for your conduct. That way we can say, and then our society, basically Western is teaching us how to become utilitarian. Otherwise our society was more of, let's say, self-sacrifice. It's more our society believes in sacrifice rather than wealth and amassing of wealth. If you are a person with high level of sacrifice, you will be appreciated. But if you are a billionaire person, so you will earn name but you will not be appreciated. Yes. Like Ramdev Baba is not appreciated. He has generated wealth for society. Good, he has generated wealth for society. But it is not appreciated. Rather we want he should be more Baba, not Baba of business. Isn't it? Yes. So we want his more sacrifice type of thing, not wealth generation. Although wealth generation is also helping society. Right. But this is how sacrifice type of society, service type of society, charity type of society. So we will have more charitable institutions. That way we can say societal level. Then governance, let's say, next governance. In context of governance, selflessness is first principle among 7 principles given by Nolan Committee, also referred by ARC second in its report Ethics in Governance. So civil servants should be selfless. Since first time we are writing, we will write other also. It is important and it is expected question. So you should remember it, it will come again and again. Selflessness is one important principle for civil servants. They should act in a selfless manner. This second thing you can write, rationality. So bureaucracy is based on rational principle. Bureaucracy is based on rational principle. Next, take decision making. Decision making of civil servants guided by conduct rules. And they are also expected to apply their wisdom. wisdom in those situations where conduct rules do not work as a guide. Conduct rules do not work as a guide. Application of wisdom means application of human conscience. Application of human conscience. That is, moral developments in civil servants are even more important. Moral developments in civil servants are even more important, as they have to first adhere universal principles. Next, should carry high level of integrity. Next, they deal with situations which demand selflessness in action. Especially in the context of crony capitalism. Next, they have to adhere right means. Irrespective of the consequence. Hence, Kantian philosophy is part and parcel of ethics in governance. So you know that if they are not selfless, what is self-interest? Self-interest has resulted into lots of things: crony capitalism, nexus, corruption. It serves your immediate interest. Immediate interest is project is of 10,000 crore. This, it may not be corruption. Because project you are giving someone in 10,000 crore. And the person is an efficient person, competent person. The only thing has happened is that the company or whatever Mr. A has offered you to give me a favor over any other company, which can be equally good, if we give you 10% of project. तो इससे दोनों चीज, both interest are served. गवर्नमेंट को प्रोजेक्ट मिला और कॉम्पिटेंट पर्सन, और आपको भी कुछ बेनिफिट मिला. नो, इससे कोई लॉस तो हुआ नहीं. एंड इट इज नॉट नोटिस्ड बाय द गवर्नमेंट, इसलिए कि मनी इज डिपॉजिटेड इन स्विस बैंक. Isn't it? What is the loss to government? कोई लॉस है? वही तो है, ट्रैक ही नहीं होगा. Right. You need Hanuman ji. Right. और आजकल कोई है नहीं, आप ऐसे भी करके कोई दिखाएगा तो कोई मानेगा नहीं. नो, एनिमेटेड होगा. So trust is trust. Integrity is integrity. That is how. पता कैसे चलेगा? पता ऐसे चलेगा कि जब आपका बिजनेस सारा ऐसे फेवर पे जाता है. It will not give encouragement to business on the basis of merit. तो जो इससे बेहतर पर्सन था वो भी कॉम्पिटेंट था और हो सकता है वो मेरिट पे लेना चाहता था, वो ब्राइब नहीं देना चाहता था, तो वो मेरिट प्रमोट करेगा. और ये इसकी आदत है तो ये कल्चर प्रमोट करेगा. दैट इज क्रोनिक कैपिटलिज्म. द लॉस विल बी टू एंटायर सोसाइटी. मेरिट बेस्ड कल्चर you will not have. That is how it has happened in our country. There is a less merit based culture. Business sector में you will be, let's say, surprised to know this, but our business environment is less merit based. कोई मॉडल नहीं है आपके पास. जो मॉडल अभी सबसे राइज कर रहा है वो कौन सा मॉडल है? You know it better. Right. So वो इलन मस्क वाला मॉडल नहीं है. This is how. Anyhow, our corporate sector will teach you one day corporate governance. We'll talk on this. It does not mean it is so, let's say that bad also. It's not like that. But you can run your business purely on the basis of hooks and crooks. Purely on the basis of hooks and crooks, jack and jugaad. And a profitable business. And a profitable business. Yes. So selflessness is very important, and selflessness is a kind of integrity, a commitment in a human, or means and ends. So that is how he is applicable. And civil servants know that this is how it is written. So one day we'll talk that Nolan committee also about this. That way we can see this. Let's write weaknesses. So is it clear? Are you able to understand his philosophy? Right. Selflessness. So if you are able to understand, you will understand utilitarian, because he will sharply criticize utilitarian philosophy, although they have their own relevance. Yes, that is what we can see. So what weaknesses we can find in his philosophy? Yes. So general weakness will be related to his conscience. One day we'll talk about conscience also. Conscience as source of ethical guidance. The human conscience is not known. It is subjective, let's say that. It can give you at times moral command. It may not give you moral command. And different persons can have different types of moral command. The subjectivity related to categorical imperative. Subjectivity because you cannot observe it. You cannot, let's say that, look into this. What is that categorical imperative? And how moral autonomy is grown up? What is the status of moral autonomy? What is the standard of moral autonomy? Can at all we have moral autonomy? So basically this is subjective. That way it is criticized. Next is, we say, is means and ends. Right, we should not create means and ends. But what is wrong in creating? So he presumes it will be manipulated, but may not necessarily. You may not necessarily manipulate means to achieve ends. Lots of competitions happen on fairness. Lots of tools and let's say infrastructure we have laid down to ensure it is fair. Isn't it? So basically, let's say all those sports, let's say, we have lots of tools and techniques to ensure it is fair. And there are people, those who want to, let's say that, play their game on the basis of merit. Many candidates, they want to, let's say, qualify civil services on the basis of merit. This exams, let's say many exams you have qualified on the basis of merit. You do not want to manipulate even if you are given the chance. No. Even if you are given the chance, you will not. This you can say. So means and ends, when we create a relation, it is not always that means is going to be compromised for ends. This is first. Second is that this, we may not necessarily have action end in itself. Any action may necessarily create means and ends relation automatically. This. So, how it can create? Suppose you are studying. The study can be the means. Qualifying result can be the end. Right. This. Or let's say that any work that you do, good health can be your aim and you can eat, let's say that, healthy foods. This. So, can we have a life without goals? After all, there will be goal in life, or we have goals in life. Goals can also be good human. If you want to be a good human, you will have to follow a path for that. Means, can we have our human actions in which we will not create means and ends relation? Forget about its manipulation. We will have means and ends relation. In fact, other philosophy they do teach about this. All religious philosophy, Gautam Buddha philosophy, it is based on means and ends. So we cannot, let's say, even Gita philosophy also. Why you want to why you want to have nishkam karma? To be a good person. Why nishkam karma? Gita says. The Gita has also given the logic that if you have self-interest based decision, it will create desire, and desire will affect your rationality in decision. This. So what is the aim of life? It is nirvana, enlightenment, liberation. This. Many religions have this end also. That the end of life is, it is nirvana or enlightenment. So, we may not necessarily have a situation where we have only action and those actions are end in itself and they do not create means and ends relationship. Because goals are part and parcel of life. This, that way also it is criticized. Yes. Yes. Largely we have a series of action. Means we can say that the human has a series of action. Goal has sub-goal, sub-goal has sub-goal. Isn't it? जैसे आप घर से आए थे यहाँ पे ओल राजेंद्र नगर में पढ़ने के लिए, isn't it? But कुछ और भी गोल क्रिएट हो गया होगा. Sub goals, isn't it? Sub goal is that, let's say कि जब तक post graduation, let's do post graduation also side by side. This way. So basically a goal can have sub goal at, let's say. That is how, let's say, that we can criticize his theory for this. And next is called universal action. Again it is subjective. And many a time it can become a wrong universal action. Even act of lie. The act of lie, largely it will be favored in any situation. This. So what is universal action? That universal action, which universal action we should follow? Hey, वर्ल्ड में तो यही फाइट है, वेस्टर्न कल्चर और ईस्टर्न कल्चर. No, the Western wants that the entire world should follow their culture as universal culture. They wanted that capitalism should be followed by all. That is how globalization. But then there is a reversal. So whether we should, they consider these values are universal values. Their democracies are universal, means they are the best way, and others should follow their democracy. So now we want to take our values to world. So then there can be also this tussle, which universal values. And that is how it can be challenged. These are some criticisms in his theories. Let's write on this. He is criticized for first Kantian's and concept of categorical imperative. Concept of categorical imperative. That they are subjective and may differ person to person. Subjective and may differ person to person. Person to person. Next, means and ends philosophy. Means and ends philosophy. Within that you can write first. It is not necessary that when means and ends are created, means would be necessarily manipulated. Means would be necessarily manipulated to achieve ends. There can be several examples in all walk of life. There can be several examples in all walk of life where people adhere to right means. People adhere to right means to achieve right ends. Right ends. Like many companies follow ethics in business. Ethics in business. Sports also adhere to fairness. Sports also adhere to fairness in action for victory. For victory. Fairness for victory. What we say sentence? They adhere to fairness in action. Right? For getting victory, that way you can write. For getting victory. Next, second, within that second, it is difficult not to create means and ends relation. It is difficult not to create means and ends relations as people cannot be without aims, objectives and goals in life. People cannot be without aims, objectives and goals in life. Goals in life. Human action is also a series of action. Human action is also a series of actions. And the preceding action can be considered. Means for succeeding action. The preceding action can be considered means for succeeding action. We have a series of action. We see life as a not one of we can say it is a series of events. A series of events. So this is how one event preceding can be means for the next event succeeding. This is how it is. That way we can say about this. Let's write next. Universality of action. Next separate point. Universality of action. First, within that, first it is difficult to judge. It is difficult to judge which action is universal. Which action is universal. As there may not be established standards, there may not be existence of established standards. There may not be existence of established standards in all walk of life. All walk of life. And people may not be aware. People may not be aware. Second, there is also moral relativism. There is also moral relativism which guides human action. Which guides human action. In fact, in day-to-day life, all human actions need not be guided by universal criteria. No. So our actions should not be guided always by universal criteria. Right. Because first we do not know many area universal standard. Right. Second is which one universal standard you follow. The vegetarian should be the universal standard. Those people who are vegetarian, they will like, isn't it? Those who are non-vegetarian, they will say no, non-vegetarian should be universal. Right. Anyhow, plus always, do you always means want to have universal aspect? Not necessarily, it is not needed. Day-to-day life is more influenced by social norms, culture, tradition, which are also important. So, many areas we cannot decide what is the universal standard. This. And moral relativism cannot be relegated, it's also important. Let's say that cultural attires, traditions. So, you'll find that Indian diplomats meeting the foreign diplomats, what they will do? And it is, they try to wear the Indian, let's say, culture-based Indian attire. This, you can see in IPL matches. So, yes, it has universal, but Indian culture is mixed in that. No, अब तो हिंदी and भोजपुरी भी बोलने लगे हैं. This, and they are given gamcha, you know that? The commentators are given gamcha. This you should know. Gamcha is Indian culture. They may speak English, right? But gamcha is Indian culture, right? And it is not bad. What we are trying to say is that anything that is moral relative, already we have told that ethics is empty without morality. And moral aspect has also its relevance, ethical aspect has also its relevance. So always it is not needed that human action should be guided by universal action. This, it is not always needed. This, in fact, human has also his, her own identity, uniqueness, which we try to appreciate. That way we can consider. And the last point is, next separate point, let's write. His philosophy gives His philosophy gives favor to ethical absolutism over moral relativism, which in a way is considered very watertight, which in a way is also considered very watertight, rigid, and idealist. Rigid and idealist. This, so that is how we can say. Let's write relevance. Relevance. His philosophy sets universal standards based on selflessness. It has potential to make people more rational and society better than utilitarian philosophy. Simply because the present society has become materialistic, money driven, selfish and self-centered. What is lacking is prevalence of selfless human action. There are also prejudices, superstition, social cultural tensions, and communal tensions based on selfishness or self-centeredness. That people are not able to think beyond self. Which becomes basis for many problems in society. Change the paragraph. The beauty of his philosophy lies in the fact that if most people are acting as per self benefits by compromising quality of means of action means of action. Cumulatively, it becomes disastrous. Cumulatively, it becomes disastrous, which is manifested through first crony capitalism and market failures. Crony capitalism and market failures. Social and communal tensions. Next, man-made disasters. Including climate change. At the same time, change paragraph. He explains that if a person compromises means of action for immediate benefits, towards end of life, he may have guilt feeling. And dissonance and tension created can have serious consequence and its cost will be more than benefits received when decision was taken. That is what he wants to give message. The choice is ours whether we will follow it. But he says it is true also, you cannot deny this. He may have rigidity, he may have this and that flaw, but what exactly he is saying is that are we taking a decision which is the best decision, not only for you but for society. If you are not taking that decision, so cumulatively it is disastrous. And you know how society is graded. Uttarakhand disaster came because of, that. Lots of disasters come. So where, let's say, Bihar is experiencing heat, and that's the heat waves and deaths. But Rajasthan is experiencing flood. तो अब थर्ड डेजर्ट को नहीं बोलना चाहिए, थर्ड डेजर्ट. अब नए तरीके से ज्योग्राफी आना चाहिए, isn't it? वैसे भी आजकल हम लोग पॉलिटी में बोलते हैं कि अब न्यू पॉलिटी आना चाहिए. So the question is that Rajasthan is flooded and Bihar has heat waves and deaths of people. So why it is happening? And Delhi is a gas chamber. ये और बात है कि वो नवंबर के टाइम में होता है. That gas chamber is for what? Why? Stubble burning. Stubble burning क्यों है? It gives you immediate benefit to farmers, but it is a huge long-term impact on the health of people. The only thing is that the cost we cannot assess it. Because अभी तक उस तरह का हमारे पास कुछ पैरामीटर नहीं है. But farmers can assess the cost. Stubble burning, if they will not do that, and they will have to bring this and that technology. It takes this much cost. But that smoke is, let's say, that going, and it is not only they are also affected, Delhi is also affected, NCR is also affected. And it is not making our, let's say, environment better. This is how we can say that depends on us. This is what he is trying to give message by his philosophy. So we'll finish here. Tomorrow we'll take utilitarian.